YouTube, this is Ty, your Metalhead Weatherman here. Hope you guys are having a good start to your weekend. So, when I first got on here today, I wasn't expecting to really talk about much, if even putting up a video at all today, but apparently the weather gods have said, "Oh, I don't know why you thinking that, Ty. Get off your butt. Get your butt in the seat and make some content." So, that being said, let's get right into it. We got two things to actually talk about. I'm going to briefly go over the fire weather risk because things have been upgraded here over a lot of these areas. We've gone from fire weather watches to red flag warnings. We still have our red flag warning in the south central Texas area, but now as you can see, Georgia, pretty much all of South Carolina and most of North Carolina is now under red flag warnings, and a small little sliver here of Florida as well. Also a tiny little area just south of Denver from the looks of it. Those of you that don't know, I did explain they explained this in the video yesterday, excuse me. Red flag warning basically means that you need to be extremely careful if you're going to be starting any kind of fire, whether you're out camping, whether you're burning a pile of leaves or something, because right now, conditions are favorable for a fire to rapidly grow out of control and spread quickly. It'd be very difficult to put out at that. Also, going to quickly touch on the this little Arctic blast that we have going on here. We have some frost advisories and freeze warnings going all the way towards northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and western Tennessee. And then, of course, our little snow system here, small scale snow system. We have winter weather advisories around the eastern part of West Virginia, around the Great Lakes, of course. And then we have a tiny little sliver here of western New York, right next to the Great Lakes, where there is a winter storm warning. And while all of that's nice and all, and not to say that I don't care about you guys that are getting snow or fire weather stuff, the meat of this video, of course, is going to be the severe weather. There have been a lot of developments in the last 12 hours. So let's get into that, shall we? So, of course, no organized severe this weekend. A nice and very welcome break for a lot of people. But as you can see here on Tuesday, business picks up. So we go to day 4 and we have our 15% risk area here. So, oops. I'm trying to get used to this. I actually just got a new mouse, but I have no mouse pad right now. Not thinking straight right now. Oh, jeez. All right, day 4. Jeez, it's no better than my laptop mouse pad. But as we go to, jeez, Louise, this thing is going absolutely haywire. Okay, there we go. Now I got this thing to calm down. So as we can see here on day 4, we got a 15% area already. This is going to be a slight risk area, and it's a very big slight risk area, so I would not be surprised to see this upgraded to an enhanced risk. Depends on the atmospheric parameters on Tuesday. And from what I've seen, this seems to lend itself to being more of a late Tuesday evening into early Wednesday morning event. I do think it could happen a little bit earlier, but this could definitely be a threat that lingers into the overnight. So, Kansas, Arkansas, oh, wow, Arkansas, I'm so sorry. But Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, you guys are all under the gun, under this slight risk area. Oklahoma City are in play, Tulsa, Fort Worth, Arlington. I'm not too familiar with many cities in Kansas. I've never been there. I apologize. I got to get used to calling out cities in all 50 states now. Sometimes I can barely remember where all of them are. That just shows you how I've struggled with a map, with the U.S. map here. It's a lot to take in when you actually think about it. But that's our day 4 risk. And we go to day 5, and this is where things get really interesting. We had the same thing happen last week in just about the same area maybe a little bit further to the east, but we have that slight risk, but we also have this 30% marker, an enhanced risk at day 5. I can't understate to you how rare this actually is, and to have it on back-to-back weeks or back-to-back days, just like last week was, is kind of crazy. But the potential is there for us to have 2 more back-to-back scenarios where we have a 30% risk issued or an enhanced risk issued. But let's get into the areas at risk here. Right around eastern Texas, of course. Some of the major cities we're looking at being in the slight risk: Little Rock, Shreveport, Baton Rouge. You guys are close, New Orleans. I know you guys don't want this because you guys got walloped last week and you had a violent tornado go through your area, especially on the south side of New Orleans. But yeah, you guys might need to be weather aware once again. And then, as we're deviating here, we'll go to the enhanced risk: Jackson, Mississippi, Monroe, Louisiana, Greenville, Vicksburg, and Clinton. You guys need to be on guard because there could be some very nasty weather coming your way. And then we do also have a day 6 risk. This area is a little bit interesting, but you'll see how it makes sense in a minute. I'm going to break this down for you in just a moment, but we do have a 15%. It's a very small area, so I don't see this being upgraded right now, but there's a lot of time and a lot of room for this to change. But Raleigh, Greensboro, or Borough, geez, I cannot speak right now. Durham, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, you guys are under the gun, and then of course Richmond, Virginia as well. Be on the lookout for severe weather on Thursday. Probably mid-Thursday at that, from what I saw in the forecast models. Look at day 7, predictability too low, so they're thinking that there is something possible. There is something that could develop here, but aren't too sure just yet, and then the same for day 8. That being said, let's move on to what we really want to see, the forecast models here. Well, actually, we're going to break down more of the parameters today, actually. The look on the forecast models haven't changed. I might show it at the end just to kind of see, just so you guys can kind of get a good idea, or better yet, I'll just show it now. I'm going to show you guys what you're all familiar with here. So we've moved this ahead to early Tuesday afternoon, mid-Tuesday afternoon. There's our low pressure here. This is going to be our troublemaker, catalyst for our severe weather. We move further and further forward, right on the western flank of this, right where we have our swirl developing. We have some severe weather that forms up into the late night hours on Wednesday. I do think that this time is a little bit late. The time of this is a little bit late. I do think that this is going to change, and it's going to kind of trend a little bit earlier into the evening and into the night. But we have what looks like a line segment trying to develop, maybe some embedded supercells mixed in there. And then this line of storms is going to progress to the east. You may get some more embedded supercells on Wednesday. Then Thursday, this looks to be trending more towards a straight line damaging wind threat. And then this area, I think there's a reason why this area is of interest. And I think when we start looking at stuff like the low-level jet and the dew points, we're going to get a good idea as to why. But it looks like you guys on the Gulf Coast might not fare too badly on Thursday, especially around the Florida Panhandle. I know I've been calling you guys out a lot. So as we move off, as we move this forward, we watch these storms kind of work their way on shore onto New York on Friday here. It's very interesting. That's a very interesting look here. It's probably why it's a very confusing look as well. It's probably why the Storm Prediction Center isn't very sure about this right now. I'm not sure about it either. So we'll watch this move forward. We'll watch this low try to form up into something major here and bring a little bit more snow to Maine. You guys are usually the last ones to get snow anyway, so that's not surprising. but just as quickly as it moves in, it moves out, and then we're all good on the weekend once more. So I'll wait for this to load. If it won't freak out on me. There we go. And that's all I'm going to show because we're mainly concerned about the severe weather today. So let's look at some parameters, shall we? So again, early afternoon on Tuesday, early to mid-afternoon I should say, we're going to look at the low-level jet. This area in particular is something that we would look for the development of tornadoes. There is no real clear hazard or dominant hazard here that we can really pick up on at the moment. I'm gonna try to see if these match the profile, the operational profile here as far as and it looks like it does, and it looks like we do have a good bit of energy. This is a positively tilted trough, and we do have a little bit of a wind maximum here. We're sitting at about, I hit the sounded model, I messed it up. Yeah, this isn't really showing anything magnanimous for me, but I do see areas where the dew point and the temperature are starting to kind of split away from each other. So there are going to be some lapse rates here, even at the lower level. So some hail probably is possible. Still not very clear on a tornado threat as of yet, but I think we could be trending towards it. Keep in mind, we're still 4 or 5 days out, so there's a lot of questions that we need to have answers. There's still plenty of uncertainties. So we watch this wind energy push further and further on, and we're looking at winds of almost 80 knots at the low-level jet. Definitely sufficient for severe weather. What's really going to be interesting is when this main line develops, which is probably represented by this this area of 70 knot winds, maybe even higher, is can we get any storms that'll form ahead of the line? If we get storms that'll form ahead of this line, those are the ones that I would be most concerned about for the possibility of stronger, potentially violent tornadoes. Of course, we're going to look at the other parameters to make sure we know what we're working with and what our limiting factors may very well be. But there's definitely a possibility that we could be in for some very nasty weather, maybe even a few supercells around the southeast on Wednesday and Thursday. We watched this on Thursday, and right around here, this is real interesting, and I think this is why they're kind of pushing that slight risk up here. We watch this trend, we look at this little trend here. Some of the stronger low-level jet winds are going to be right here, and that's exactly where our slight risk area is. So depending on where our Cape values are and where our dew points are, this will say a lot about what we could expect. As of right now, I'll be honest with you, I think pretty much any hazard is possible. So here we are. I'm going to try something a little different here because anytime I use Pivotal for the dew points, my computer just does not seem to respond well to it. So we're going to try Tropical Tidbits. So we're going to look up here so I can see where we are on Sunday. I've got a long way to skip to. Uh-oh. Maybe a little too far. There we go. That's better. So we're looking at mid-morning on Tuesday. We already have some dew points. We have dew points building. Some of these areas are already into the 60s around southern Texas. Just barely sufficient enough for severe weather. A lot of these areas up around Oklahoma and Kansas, they aren't really there yet, but this is early in the morning. Give these a little bit more time to build here. Dew points don't seem to be that rich, but keep in mind we are still pretty far out, and dew points tend to be underdone whenever we're in the longer range. And then I'm already kind of seeing why they chose Wednesday to be a day where they might put an enhanced risk, because if you look, you can already, even though we're in the long range at this point, we're all over 100 hours out, we're getting dew points around mid to upper 60s, maybe even a few spots at 70s already this far out. Very alarming. So that's very alarming. And then as we move forward, oops, hit the wrong button. So we move forward, we don't really keep that high dew point, those high dew points, so it's going to be hard to say as to what happens next. This is why I don't really like looking at the long range stuff, because after a while it just kind of does some wacky stuff here. I mean, you can definitely tell that this is our front, but there's like little patches in here where you're getting upper 50s and 60s. If we can, I would love to see that get hashed out. Sometimes it doesn't happen though, so it's just one of those deals. So we look on Friday. Yeah, you might get a look. There might be some severe weather around the DC area, maybe even pushing into the Long Island region, but it's going to be very quick. It's probably going to be a late night event, but it's also going to probably be isolated in nature. Then by Friday, we're going to have another cool down. Things are going to, yeah, you could tell by how these dew points drop that we're going to be in for another Arctic blast. Because usually with cold, because what you need to remember is warm air usually has a lot of moisture associated with it, especially during this time of year. But when we have cold air that's coming in from the north, it often tends to be more dry. So for areas in the south, it tends to be harder to get snow because you're having that cool, dry air clashing with that warm, moist air. So just a little heads up for you guys that live around my area in particular. That's why we have such a hard time getting snow. All right, so that's the end of that. So we're into the 4th at this point, so there's no point in looking at that right now. So we're going to take a look at the temperatures as well. Uh-oh, I've lost my loop here. So I'm going to get this set up here, and then get a good look, and we're going to try to take a good look at what we have in line for Tuesday. And I think the reason why Kansas and Oklahoma are still in play, because if you look around the early morning and afternoon hours, we have temperatures that are pushing 80 all the way through Kansas even. It's very interesting developments. And then just look at South Texas. South Texas is baking. We have lower to mid 80s even in some spots. So there's definitely plenty of warm air. And then I showed you guys yesterday that map where we have the where we're showing the ridges and troughs, or the red versus blue is, I guess we'll call it red versus blue on this channel. So the blue is our trough, red is our ridge, and right in between there, that's where our Gulf moisture tends to sneak up in that little white area, that clear slot. And that's where our instability, our storms will often tend to develop. So you can kind of see where our cold air is right here. So this is our storm system. We'll move forward here. And watch out, look at that. Even in southern Texas, we're getting 90s. That's insane. These Cape values, I actually expect them to be pretty high. Even if the dew points aren't necessarily high, if you have warm enough temperature, you can overcome that. That's one thing that I'd be sure to, I want to make clear to everybody here that's watching. So as we move further and further forward, we're losing some of that daytime heating, of course. But this could be a very explosive environment for thunderstorms on Tuesday. So as we move further and further forward, that warm air does push to the east, and we get some notably warm temps around here too. Hence the enhanced risk. And then look at that. That's crazy. Look at that. We're getting some mid-70s pushing all the way up into northern Mississippi. Probably going to push its way into northern Alabama. Georgia, you guys aren't out of this too. So looks like there's going to be plenty of warm air available for these storms to use. Whether it'll be translated into Cape, that's going to be the key question. These Cape values are going to be pretty much everything. It's going to make or break this severe weather system, really. And honestly, based off what I'm seeing, I don't expect these Capes to be too low. I mean, the dew points aren't necessarily in 70s like last week, but if you have enough warm temperatures, you can kind of balance that out. It also can play a factor into what kind of mode we have, what kind of hazard of severe weather we have. Ah, jeez, this thing doesn't want to load. Yeah, I'm just a little disorganized here. I'm not used to doing these videos in the afternoon, but I felt like this was something I just had to talk to you guys about. So let's take a look at the Cape values real quick. Let's take a quick look at the Cape values. Cape values don't tend to load that bad on this computer, but then again, I've always used the NAM. Alright, so move forward to early Tuesday afternoon, and everything's loaded. What luck. And then we see a small area over here where we have Cape values starting to push 1,000. Yeah, 1,000, maybe even 1,500 in a couple of spots. I do think the thing about looking at Cape models into the long range is they tend to be not overdone, but underdone more often than not. So I think these Cape values that we're seeing now are going to be much higher once we get towards the short range models. So we're going to move this forward. Yeah, I think these Cape values are much higher. But I think the real reason as to why we're going to have that enhanced risk around the area that the National Weather Service had highlighted around here is because we were already on this is day 6 that they had mentioned, or day 5, and we can clearly see that there's Cape readings of about 1,500 already. Clear cut sign, and then even if you look at the sounding, there you go, there it is, possible hazard type tornado. So I do expect a tornado threat right around Louisiana once more. Keep mentioning you guys too, and then Mississippi as well. It's that time of year. Dixie Alley tends to be in play right around mid to late March and into April. So definitely can clearly see we have convection, but we also have a pretty considerable lapse rate here up into the higher levels. So this looks interesting. This looks very interesting, very concerning. So all you guys that are under that enhanced risk on Wednesday, please take it seriously. This is a very alarming signal that I'm seeing. I mean, we can only hope that this underperforms, but this is definitely something that you need to watch out for now. So, oops. Ah, geez. Here we go with this again. So we'll watch this move further and further off to the east. Excuse me. And then we don't really get too much Cape going right there. And then right around where that slight risk area is, late into Thursday into early Thursday night, that's where we have some Cape readings of about 500. Probably not going to see too much from our sounding here. Marginal severe. I do think these Cape values are a little bit underdone, so not much clarity to be had there. Come on now. Alright, there we go. And we're going to look on Friday, try and see if we get any sort of indicator as to what might be going on around this area. Because the GFS showed us a really weird look, but the Cape doesn't match up with it. So yeah, the predictability is definitely going to be too low on Friday and Saturday, but keep in mind, like I've said, this is in the long range, so it's going to be hard to say what parts of this will remain the same, which parts will uptick, and which parts are kind of bullish. But that's all I have for you guys today. I'll be making another video tomorrow because I do think that we will start to be getting into range of the NAM 3 kilometer, which is one of the shorter range models. But that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. This has been Ty, your Metalhead Weatherman. You guys have a good rest of your day.